Hello and welcome. This is Laren with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to take a first look at the the Book of Many Things, which derives from the Deck of Many Things. This is a release that I wasn't overly excited about, although now that I think about it and I've looked at it, it looks okay. It's not bad. I want to say it's not the worst of the releases that have come out in the last 6 months to a year, but it is definitely a good tool that you can use as a game master, especially as you get into higher levels. I think something like this would be nice to add or to freshen up a campaign. It's nice to have additional content, and this thing kind of does contain kind of a hodgepodge of everything. So you got like creatures and you got magic items and you have a couple player options, a couple spells. So it kind of just throws everything at you. So literally it throws the book at you. So there's two pieces to this. And if you haven't noticed that most of the DnD5e books are converted by Zacchaeus, so pretty sure he did a bang up job on that. He's usually pretty good at these conversions, so I'm not too concerned about quality. The other thing is, if you are new to Fantasy Grounds and you've never used it before, the content after you load it, you download it, and then you update Fantasy Grounds. You want to go to your modules, and then you go to the activation button, and you'll search for this. Initially, I was searching for the Deck of Many Things because that's what I'm used to. But once I put in the Book of Many Things, it came up in the search. So you can search that way, and then you can click the load filter, and it'll show you what you have loaded. So this is the Book of Many Things, the DM part. Then there's the players section, so it's broken up into two pieces. And then I also have the player's handbook loaded just in case, and that's pretty much all I'm going to deal with for this particular show. The next thing is the actual reference manual. So when you click on these books, it'll take you to these modules over here on the right. If you click on reference manual, it brings up this window, which is the actual book. Everything else are kind of like shortcuts. Like here's a shortcut to all the NPCs. So I think out of everything out of this book, I'm most excited about the NPCs because you have some in here that you haven't seen in a while. There's some like the Displacer Beast and those sort of things. So it has a lot of neat monsters. I think there's like over 40 creatures, if I remember right. And then there are some player options, so I want to take a look at that. So if I'm going to click on the player options, click on the reference manual, and let's take a look at what we got. So here's the cover. So this is kind of what you would expect out of the book. If you click this arrow over to the right, that'll take you to the next page. And here's all the credits and the artwork. So I'm going to pop this out and show you this, because this is the cover art. I'm kind of really happy with this particular cover art. Sometimes the cover art is good, sometimes it's not. I mean, usually pretty good because it's a first impression, but this is definitely pretty cool. You got all these cards floating around, and you got all these symbolic things, like almost like a constellation of things. Looks like maybe a Wanti or a Naga, and then you have this paladin over here. I think she's also detailed in this content. So this is a pretty nice looking cover. I really like this. It's nice. Greatly appreciated if you're going to be putting money into this. And speaking money and investment, on the Fantasy Grounds store in US dollars, it was around $30 with some change. And if you are a subscriber and you already have a bunch of content, when you put it in your basket, it'll be about 25, 26 bucks or something like that. But that's the going rate. That's pretty standard for pricing, although those are starting to creep up. The quality of content, I would say, is decent. The amount of content is kind of so-so, not too bad. So I think overall, I would give this release maybe a 6.5 or a 7, which is much higher than some of the other content that they've released. I wasn't too big of a fan of Big Beast because I thought that was released a lot too late. Like that could have been something that was released when the Storm Kings of Thunder was going on or something. I thought the timeliness of it was weird. And then the Lost Mine of Fandelver, the Fandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, I was completely devastated and disappointed with that. That was horrible. That's probably one of the worst ones I've seen in a long time, and I was really looking forward to that one. But nonetheless, you can kind of make it what you want, but those are just my personal opinions. Take it or leave it. So anyhow, you're getting some player details. There's some character options. So there's Heroes of Destiny. There's a Rogue, Sage, Fates, and Knight. And they all have some sort of thing. So one of the important steps of a warrior's journey is discovering the reason why you fight. Glory and fame are good motives, but they're often hiding something deeper, perhaps a longing to be accepted or a burning desire to prove your naysayers wrong. Me? Well, I fight to protect others and to kindle hope, and maybe a little bit to prove my father wrong. So this is just an excerpt from the Destiny Knight, and then it gets into the different cards and what it might mean to you for this particular player. So these are player options that you can use when you're building your character. The prompts can easily be personality traits, relationships, events, any of those sort of things for your past. But they're basically to foretell events in your character's future as well. You can consider how much your character knows about the destinies and all that sort of thing regarding this table. So you can kind of use this to set up your fortune and destiny to make your character more interesting, and it gives your game master much more tools to work your backstory into the plot or the campaign that you're in. So it kind of gives them that sort of license to do that. If you played Ream of the Frost Maiden, they sort of did something like that too, where each person had a secret, and that was kind of a cool role-playing element, I think. So there you go. You got a lot of monsters. You also have a new feat. This is the Cartomancer. They use cards as their spell focus for arcane power. You have to talk to your GM, obviously, to see if it's available in your campaign. You have to at least be 4th level and have a spellcasting feature to utilize the feat. But you can do card tricks, and there's a hidden ace feat or trait. So that's the Cartomancer. This is a feat that you can choose. And then there's some spells. So there's a few spells. So you have Antagonize, you have Spirit of Death, which is a necromancy, and then the Spray of Cards, which is Conjuration. So there's 3 different spells that are going to be available to you. And then not to mention, you have some new backgrounds, and those are called the Rewarded. And then there's one called the Ruined. So that's kind of probably you kind of lived a difficult life, and then suddenly destiny changed your life. And then you have the Ruined, where you had everything going well and you're living a life of luxury, and then all of a sudden something misfortune or weird happens. So I think this kind of ties into the fate of using these cards. And there are lots of different ways that you can kind of integrate this into your campaign. You can use it for encounters, role-playing. There's some locations in here. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with this. So that's kind of why I like I think the main selling point is it's very flexible. It adds different types of content, so it's not just focused on one thing. There are also some new magic items, I believe. So I want to go and take a look at the items. So if I click on the supplement and click on items, this brings up some more magic items. So it has quite a few of those. So if you're someone who likes magic items, there's like 6 pages of them. Wow. So that's quite the collection there of magic items. So that's another good selling point of this particular content, is because it's giving you more of that, whereas most of that comes from the Dungeon Master's Guide. So you're getting a lot more out of there. Let's see, is there any item templates? Yeah, they made that for Fantasy Grounds. Lots of images. So if you're someone who likes the visual part, they do have quite a bit of artwork in here, so I'm pretty happy with that. So that is a good thing. So if you like the artwork, including the NPC, so I looked at one here, that's the Displacer Beast, and there's 2 pictures. So one is like a scene where there's 2 of them together, and then they have the single one that's more or less like an asset that you can use for your storytelling and putting together your own content. So Smiteworks took out all the background information, or all the basically all the made it a transparency so that you can utilize this in a scene or in something coming up that you might need it for. So this is cool, and I think they're kind of preparing, if they ever release the 2D thing, they'll have this available. So when you're running your games, you don't have to sit there and do this yourself. You'll be able to just pull up one of these pictures and use that in your scene or your combat. So this is really cool content. I really like this, and like I said, I give it about a 6.5 or 7, depending on how you want to look at it. But essentially, this is a really good kind of like a accessory, I would call it. It's not really a campaign. It's not a monster manual. It's not just a book of rules and references. It's like a little bit of everything, and that's kind of why they call it the book of many things. And if you go straight through the DM side of things and you go to the reference manual, it kind of just goes into each chapter, talks about the different cards and how they can be used in play, how to handle the cards. There's riddles in here. There's traps. There's items like gems and magic items. There are some things that talk about the character backgrounds. And then they actually start getting into the symbology, like the sun and the moon, and the related things that can be a part of that as far as role-playing and story goes. So there's a little bit of everything in here. It's like a little adventure. There are things in here that you can use to embellish your other campaigns. So here's like the running sphere. It was basically a challenge just to get the characters to the dungeon sphere. Your next challenge is getting them out, and so these are like just little like adventure paths or little short adventures that you can use for like ideas to springboard your own homebrew content or to add to something that you're already playing. So that's what this is really good for. So you get a bunch of monsters, bunch of magic items, and a couple new class features and backgrounds and those sort of things. And then you're getting a couple stories, a couple maps, so it's not bad. I think this one I'm really happy with. Like I said, the other stuff that was released earlier this year wasn't too keen on. It was okay, but this is a lot better. So I'm really happy with Dragonlance. I'm really happy with this particular release, the Book of Many Things, and I was really happy with the last book, the Planescape. But when it comes like the Phandelver and below, disappointing. Big Bees was okay, but I really didn't care for it. It was kind of okay. It just seemed like it was too late to release that after Storm Kings of Thunder and everything else. I realize it's a separate thing, but it could have been timed a lot better, I think. But nonetheless, here's what we have. We got the Deck of Many Things. You have 2 separate books, one for the GM and one for the players. And then, like I said, you have some player stuff. So you get new backgrounds, new feats, spells, and there's some tables to work from. So like you have, if you pick the rewarded background, you have other traits that you can pick from there. So there's just all kinds of stuff to help you supplement your adventures and to make it funner for you to play, and also to have more content that you can pull upon. Like if you needed more magic items or a different monster you haven't seen in a while, those sort of things. So this is really just the first look at this. I'm not really going in too deep as to what all the different things. I don't want to spoil it and kind of ruin it for everyone, but this is essentially what you're getting, what you're paying for, is you're getting some good artwork, a bunch of monsters, magic items, some player options. Even I think there's a couple little adventures in here. And if you're used to Fantasy Grounds and you've been playing for a while, you're going to find the information in the reference manual. They don't really put them in the story entries anymore. So if you're looking in the story entries for the module content, if you go to the campaign section and then you go to story, there's nothing there. So you're going to wonder, hey, what's going on? But if that's the case, just look in the reference manual in the actual modules section under reference, and then you'll have all your stuff. So that's where all the stuff is kept. So if you haven't played in a while or you haven't used Fantasy Grounds in a while, that's where that's kept. It comes up every now and then that people wonder where the content is or what's wrong, or they think it's broken. Well, that's the reason why, because they've, over the last 6 months to a year, they've kind of migrated over to a different format. When I have to admit, when it first happened, it got me. The first time I kind of wrote to Doug, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And he says, oh, that's by design. We're actually going into making the reference manual the main book because it looks better. You have a searchable field. You can collapse and embed images in here or collapse the story. You can still put your links in here that you can pop out, and it just looks better aesthetically. Like it kind of looks like an actual book and not just a text reference. And then, of course, you have the navigation arrow on the bottom. So it does a lot of things that a traditional Fantasy Grounds module couldn't do. Even with their old reference manual, you didn't have the ability to unlock anything and that sort of thing. So in the adventures, when you have an adventure, not a reference manual or a rule book, but an actual adventure, you can unlock those and make changes. So they made it to where adventures and one shots and stuff, those can be unlocked and you can edit those, but rule books and reference books not so much. So if you're looking to change anything, you could only do that mostly with adventures and that sort of thing, not so much the rule books. So the Deck of Many Things, even though it's not really a rule book, it's kind of basically a rule book. It's considered one. So if you go to the reference manual and you try to unlock it, it'll say read only. But in some cases, like if you go to a adventure or something like that, it'll let you unlock it and make changes. So it kind of depends on what the content is and also the licensing agreement that's in place with the publisher. So nonetheless, this is the Book of Many Things based off the Deck of Many Things. I hope this helps you with your choice on wanting to purchase, or if you even want to consider it. I know a lot of us are disheartened by the OGL mess that happened this year, but I think this book is worth the purchase, more so than some of the others. But nonetheless, you guys have a good week. Happy